Erin Jacobson, known as the music industry lawyer. I protect musicians and music professionals through deal negotiations and proper intellectual property management. You can visit my website at www.themusicindustrylawyer.com. I also own and operate Indie Artist Resource, the independent musician's resource for legal and business protection, offering downloadable contract templates, IP registration services, and consultations for independent musicians not quite ready to hire an attorney. You can visit Indie Artist Resource at www.indieartistresource.com. In the last video, we talked about whether artists actually need Spotify. Today I'm going to talk about what artists actually earn from Spotify. And if you don't mind, I'm going to have to look down at a piece of paper I have here with the statistics on them, with the royalty rates. So in 2015, the RIAA, which is the Recording Industry Association of America, calculated the revenues from purchased music in 2015. Streaming accounted for 34.3% of all U.S. music industry revenue. Digital downloads were 34%. Physical disc CD sales was 28.8%. And the total retail revenue for music sales, we're talking about the recording, not touring or merchandise, things like that. The total retail revenue was $7 billion for the year of 2015. Those are still some pretty good numbers, and it shows that people are paying for music. However, what the artists are getting is a different story. So Spotify says that since they've started, they've paid out $3 billion in royalties, and more than $300 million of which was paid in the first 3 months of 2015 alone. Now here's an idea of the pay-per-stream royalty, even though Spotify doesn't calculate on a pay-per-stream basis. So basically the average per-stream royalty to record labels is about half a cent. And then for signed artists, that might end up being 0.0011 cents per stream, but that depends on their deal, which I'll get into in a minute. An unsigned artist, it works to about 0.007 cents per stream because there's no label taking out the money. It goes straight from Spotify to the artist. So now just as a comparison for YouTube, a signed artist might get 0.0003 cents and an unsigned artist might get 0.0018 cents. So these are really, really small numbers. Spotify distributes income on a percentage basis. So Spotify keeps about 30% of its income, and then it pays about 70% to labels and publishers. And due to statutory regulations in the US, the publishers only get about 20% of what the labels get. And if you're not sure about how the ownership and royalty structures are distinguished in U.S. copyright law, the composition or song has one copyright, and those are usually owned by music publishers, and then the master recording, which is usually owned by the record label, has a different copyright and royalty stream. So they're treated as two separate entities. So an artist's royalty will depend on different variables. Some of them are in which country people are streaming the music, Spotify's number of paid users versus free users, because the payments are different based on whether they're coming from subscription users or free users, the relative premium pricing and currency value in different countries, and also the artist's royalty rate in their deal with the record company. And another thing that matters is whether the artist is recouped. So in the music business, when an artist signs with a record label, they usually get an advance. And people hear about, oh, how much did you get for your advance? Well, the advance is not free money. The advance is not the label's way of saying, thanks for signing, here's some free money as a gift. An advance is actually an advance payment of royalties, and the label has to make that money back before it will start paying new royalties to the artist. So if an artist hasn't what we call recouped, basically if the label hasn't made back the amount of money that it's already advanced out to the artist, then the artist is not going to be seeing any royalties from streaming sales, anything like that, until the label recoups that amount. So that all sounds well and good, sort of. I mean, at least it sounds like there's some money flowing around, even though the artist isn't getting very much of it. But Spotify has actually been hit with a few class action suits, and they've actually just settled with the NMPA, the National Music Publishers Association, for about $30 million. And the reason for this lawsuit was because Spotify was not paying publishers because they didn't have a system in place to identify the proper publishers that needed to be paid from the songs that were being streamed on Spotify. Now this blows my mind because a company like Spotify should have had a proper system in place to identify the rights owners of the songs it was playing and who it needed to pay and how to pay them. And they didn't even have that in place. So this is kind of one of the biggest avenues of people consuming recorded music, and they don't even have a system in place to properly pay the people that own the music. Now they are implementing one, but how I just don't understand how they just didn't have one in place and who didn't advise them or didn't think it was necessary. So how does streaming payments relate to download payments? So when you download a song on iTunes, let's forget the $1.29 songs for a second. Let's stick with the 99-cent download. The split is pretty much the same, whereas iTunes will keep about 30% and then pay out about 70%. So when you work out the math, it takes about 130 streams on Spotify to equal the amount paid out on one download. And I'm not talking about an album download. I'm talking about one download of one song, a 99-cent song. So that's pretty crazy. You have to have people stream your song 130 times to get the equivalent of someone buying your song for 99 cents once. That's a pretty big deal. As we talked about last time in the video, is it really worth it? For the bigger artists, maybe not. Adele and Taylor Swift don't have their music on Spotify because those streams compete with the money that they get through sales, and they have the power and connection with their fan base that they can drive people to actually purchase the music rather than streaming it. For a new independent artist, Spotify is not a money-making tool, but it's a promotional tool. It's something that may allow people to discover an independent artist's music, gain new fans, have these fans sign up on a mailing list, purchase concert tickets, purchase merchandise, things like that, which are actually areas that make artists more money than record sales. So if Spotify can be used as a promotional tool to drive the sales of these other areas of an artist's career, then it might be worth it for an independent musician. But the independent musician is typically, I know there's a few cases out there with some news stories, but typically they're not going to make very much money on Spotify at all. So the question I leave to you is the next time you're going to consume some music, think about the impact that it has on the artist and whether you want to stream it or you want to buy it. I'm Erin Jacobson, the music industry lawyer. You can visit my website at themusicindustrylawyer.com and download contract templates at indieartistresource.com.